Welcome back to the Aftermatch with Kirsten Beeve. Come for the rugby, stay for the fastest team in international rugby history. That's what Beeve demanded. Beeve demanded Peter Lakai be on the bench. He got his wish, but this is basically, Beeve, if you look at the All Blacks 23 for Bledisloe 1, it's the return of many players.
Yeah, obviously Cam Roigard, our big gun at halfback, someone who I think's as good as most in the world, returns for his first rugby championship game, and what a difference he will make, I'd imagine. And then Big Paddy finds the bench. Holland finds his way back into the starting 15. And Caleb Clark, who has come via the NPC, is back on the left wing. And, geez, I saw some highlights of his breakout performance against Aussie at Eden Park a few years ago during the COVID season. And, geez, something like that from Caleb would be nice on Saturday afternoon.
That was his best season, and that match that he played at Eden Park, that post-COVID test, was incredible when his father, Aroni, was sitting in the stands and the camera just kept cutting to him and everyone was absolutely loving it. I've got questions galore about this team. Some of them straightforward. Cody Taylor coming back in, as you say, Cam Roigard. Paddy Tuipulotu. Now, the interesting thing with the locks are Scott Barrett is out with injury. He picked up a shoulder injury in the last test against the Springboks in Wellington, so he's not available for selection. So we don't know what would have happened. Would Paddy have come straight onto the bench if Scott was still available? Like, what would that mix have looked like? Would Tupou still be a lock, or would he have been named at 6, but Simon Parker's at 6? It's a lot of questions now. We don't know.
A lot of questions. I think to answer your last question, because I think that's the easiest question to answer, is no. I think they have decided that although they like the big man at 6, I think the big man appears to be Simon Parker, because if you look at the Springboks games when everyone was available, bar Paddy, Scott Barrett obviously was, then it was still Simon Parker that they went to in the 6 jersey. Where would have Big Paddy fit if Barrett was still there? I think it would have been a straight head-to-head with Fabian Holland for the bench spot. And I think it's great. It's great. I think Paddy was in some wonderful form before that nasty head injury. The hole in the head, essentially what it was, wasn't it? Against the Argentinians in Test 1. So great that he's back. He's having a wonderful year, and he can only add to that All Black team, which is in desperate need of some of his huge amounts of experience at the moment.
Caleb Clark, you mentioned, is back. Leroy Carter switches to the other news. And to be honest, he definitely deserves it because, as we named him, our Black Magic All Black of the Week, he was the best All Black on show in Wellington. Caleb, Beef, why did he have to play 2 weeks in the NPC? This is an established All Black.
Yeah, he's an established All Black for sure, but he doesn't often get long runs of being an All Black. I was talking to someone today about it and said he's often there, but he hasn't had long runs of it. Obviously, last year was probably his longest run when he was one of the real go-tos for the All Blacks come selection time. Don't know why he had to have a couple back there, but look, I watched him live in Pukekohe last weekend, and he was in a very poor Auckland team, it must be said, where he wasn't getting great ball, he wasn't getting front foot ball, he wasn't getting ball often. He went looking for it, he was busy, he was powerful, and he looked fast. He really did. So glad to see we've chucked him out there without hesitation because as I said at the start of the week, a couple of daytime games, and Caleb Clark on a hard deck with some decent ball. I look forward to seeing what he can do because he looks in great shape.
Peter Lakai, first test of 2025, Beeve. You called it, and it raises listen to the podcast this week, along with our 7,000 other subscribers on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and everywhere else you get your podcast from.
Yeah, great numbers. First of all, great numbers on the subscriptions. All yous who haven't hit the subscribe button, come on, help us out. The goal is 10,000 by the end of the year. That was a distant dream at the start, but we're on track.
What would 10,000 mean to you, Beeve?
Probably one of my greatest achievements in podcast career. Seeing this as my only podcast career aspect to it, then it would certainly mean the world. But back to the rugby serious question. Peter Lakai. Look, I just think, obviously he got injured at the wrong time as far as the start of the international season goes, and he's worked his way back. He's another one that's just recently played a bit of NPC. He adds a dimension to the bench, which is something that's been talked about heavily. The bench compared to others, doesn't appear to be having the impact of other teams when you look at it straight from a point scored and how games are flowing. So Peter Lakai has the ability to cover, I would say, all three positions as far as the loose forward mix goes, much like Luke Jacobson, but possibly where he wins out over, if he was in a head-to-head with a Luke Jacobson or what have you, is just, I guess, his dynamic ability. And I've often sort of thought that he's very similar to a young Ardie Savea. He has that, I guess, that ability to carry so dynamically and great feet. So be interesting to see how he goes. But yeah, for me, it was once he started to show that he's well and truly back playing regular rugby, he was always going to be included, because when you looked at Super Rugby, he was, well, geez, there wasn't many loose forwards. You think about Ardie Savea's incredible performance for Moana, but consistently there wasn't too many better across all of Super Rugby in all positions than Peter Lakai for Hurricanes.
Who does he come on for, Beef? You're not taking Ardie Savea off. Wallace TT has been World Rookie Player of the Year. Like, who's he coming on for?
Oh, I think they'll go on feel. I think they won't have preconceived ideas. It certainly won't be Ardie. This we know. It'll be probably either Simon Parker or Wallace Atiti, as you've mentioned. And as I say, that loose forward show with what Lakai can bring, it's very flexible. It really is. So obviously Ardie's going to start at 7. With 20 to go, they chuck Peter Lakai at 7 and push Ardie back to 8, and then the other two, you can just sort of gauge the fact. I guess Simon Parker gives it a big, genuine line-out option, which it's going to be a tall line-out. Whatever Aussie throws at us, it is going to be a big man, probably with Hooper at 6, who's a big number 6. So you'd imagine they will like the addition of having the ability to play another big man as far as line-out goes.
You mentioned Luke Jacobson. He's someone that we haven't seen in Test rugby this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was supposed to play that match in Hamilton and then got scrubbed during the warm-up. So he's been a little bit like the Peter Lakais of the world, and obviously came out of Super Rugby injured, so he's been unlucky. But he's available. We haven't seen him. And with some of these selections as well, what does it signal for guys like Rico Ioane and Duplessis Kirifi?
Yeah, well, I mean, Duplessis Kirifi in his first year, I guess proper as being an All Black, has had some really good run outs. So I don't know if you read too much into it, apart from this is the way they've gone this week, and this is what they need. Someone like Luke Jacobson, to me, is just a real genuine starter. And yep, he's got the ability to cover all three positions. And people therefore say, oh, that's a great man to have on the bench then. But I guess if you're comparing him like for like, then that's what Peter Lakai does. And I don't think Luke would, he would be the first to admit that his game's different to Peter Lakai's. And I think if you're going to play Luke Jacobson, you're starting him, So he's that sort of footballer. He's big engine, going to go 80. He's going to tackle hard. He's going to do everything right. And I think, at that level, a lot of people see him as a genuine 8. So he's quite possibly in competition at the moment with Wallace Atiti.
On Rico, do you think if and when we're to see him back in the All Blacks, it's more likely going to be at 13 than on the wing?
No, I think the way they've made their bed this year, as far as the All Black coaches go, it looks like they do see him as a winger now. They're giving so 13 was obviously a position that if you walk the streets and talk to a lot of people, that if there was going to be changes, that's possibly where they were going to be looking at. But in fairness, it's great to see that Billy Proctor gets a continued chance there, because 13 is not just a position that you sort of grow into and get better and better with time and age, but it's also about your combinations and your combinations. Yes, he's played a lot of footy with Geordie Barrett, but not at that level. Obviously it's still a combination that's still finding its feet as far as international goes, and then the combination of the wingers. And I dare say that combination curse is going to be tested like never before this week, because there's going to be some threats and continue to threats and more threats as far as regular threats coming. It's not like you're going to have to maybe stifle maybe 3 or 4 attacking raids at you. If Aussie get the ball, and they're gonna constantly come at you. That's the way they're going to play the All Blacks. So it's going to be a big ask, but I guess they've backed the development and the combinations that Billy's forming around him, and it's good to see. I mean, when he got back available for Super Rugby, it was he was as good as anyone, if not the best centre as far as the New Zealanders go. So they look like they've made the bet, and they've offered, I guess, a little bit of faith to Billy Proctor. And the others, Kirst, when you look at the team that's been rolled out, it's pretty similar to the one that played in Wellington.
It is. There are no big bombshells aside from maybe having the Peter Lakai in there, no Lester Whanganuku like you would have liked. So not the same team that you would have picked. Why has Razor done this? What are you seeing from this team? What are you thinking? What do you think he was thinking in selecting this team?
Well, obviously, albeit for me to try and jump into Razor's head.
Please do, Beef.
Well, look, I mean, some people say jumping into my head would be a mission, but I reckon jumping into Razor's might be completely different again. But if I can for a second and channel my inner Razor, why have I ended up with this team? Well, for me, it's two reasons. He's sat back. They've had a week off. He's sat back over that week. He's looked at all the footage in the world with his coaches and gone, so he beat the Springboks at Eden Park, and although yes, we were defending to defend the 7-point lead, you'd have to say it felt comfortable. It felt like it was under control. And then you fast forward a week, and they had a halftime lead against the world champion Springboks. Then with 15, 20 to go, you still felt that they would probably get their way out of it. And then it all erupts, and it turns into a historical loss. And obviously there was all the hysteria. And what I'm saying is he might have gone away, sat back, stewed on it, let the days pass, the time pass, and goes, when I calculate all that stuff, what would I be changing? What personnel would I be changing? Because for 80 minutes I was happy with Eden Park, well, really happy with Eden Park. And for probably 50 minutes in Wellington I was really happy. So am I going to throw everything out for that 20 or 30 minutes? And yes, you don't ever want to accept a record defeat like the margin ended up being, but is he saying, well, I sort of can't throw out all that work that we did at Eden Park and then the first 50 minutes, or is it, so that's option A in Razor's head.
That was all over the place.
Yeah, well, excuse me, I thought I made absolute sense. He's saying that 30 minutes doesn't outweigh, whatever that minutes works out, 80 plus 50, whatever that, my maths isn't great, but does it outweigh all the good work? And then the other option for Razor was, right, these guys played like that in Wellington. They're the ones that are going to be hurting the most. They're the ones who have had 13 nights sleep or lack of thinking about what's happened. Go fix it. And that's the other option he thought of to get to this team, because by and large, it's all the same guys apart from non-negotiable starters, meaning your Cody Taylor walks straight back in, Cam Roygaard walks straight back in. And obviously they always wanted Will Jordan back at fullback, which meant we needed another wing. Caleb Clark's back, fully fit and roaring. So it's another sort of obvious one. It's not like they've gone, boom, we're going to blow this whole thing up. So for me, Kirst, it's either he's sat back and realised it wasn't as bad as he felt it could have been in Wellington, or secondly, he's decided, right, you guys did that, go fix it. You guys hurting, go fix it.
Thanks for jumping into Razor's brain for us.
Yeah.
Maybe you could jump into Rassie's brain for us, Beef, because looking at this Box team, very few changes. So many of the same players that demolished the All Blacks in the last 20 in Wellington. Sasha goes back into that number 10 jersey. Dialende goes back at 12 next to Kane and Moody, and Damian Willemson as at 15 with Fassi obviously getting injured. But another gun team. We've seen so many different teams put out by the Box this year, and that's another good one.
Well, essentially, Kirst Russie's made no changes because Fassi was forced, and his next best fullback is Willemson, who's obviously a World Cup winning fullback now, and he was absolutely unbelievable in both positions in Wellington, both at 12 and then at 15. So he goes straight back to 15, and then he's got his main man, who's been his 12 for pretty much his entire coaching career there with the Springboks in Delande. So essentially, Russie's saying, I'm happy with what you did in Wellington, go again, and why wouldn't they be happy? For me, it's just an indication that they're going to play with Sasha there at 10, even Lebok being on the bench, who, let's be honest, Lebok was great in Wellington. He was the man that essentially was there when it all started to turn for the Springboks curse. So no surprises there. Then you look at the forward pack and you're the envy of the world. And then you look at the forward bench and you've still got the likes of Sneeman and that sitting on the bench. So no, it's another very handy looking side, it must be said, Curse.
Okay, well, that is the aftermatch with Kirsten Beef. Come for the rugby, stay for the aftermatch. We're still waiting on the Wallabies team, but we're hearing there are some big changes because they've had some big injury losses this week as well. Can't wait for that test, Beef. Can't wait to rip in, and I'm sure these boys will be desperate too after Wellington. As you say, 13 days of stewing. They'll want to get back out there.
Oh, yes, 13 days of stewing. And let's not forget, the Garden of Eden sold out again. The record goes on the line again. And it's
afternoon match.
5 o'clock. It's going to be humming.
Be careful, Beef.
Well, I've already got to the City of Sales. I don't want to play it too early, but I've got to
live in the City of Sales.
No, I don't.
The outer City of Sales.
I've got 2 nights.
You've just made your way downtown to the viaduct.
I've got 2 nights to get through before we get to Test match day.
Okay, be careful, would you?
I will
go
be.
the All Blacks. Can't wait for this one. See you on Sunday.